Welcome to Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. And I am your host, Conrad Cushman. And on this week's episode of the podcast, we are going to be doing preview and predictions for WWE Evolution. Before we get into our preview and predictions for WWE Evolution, I wanted to take some time to talk about Roman Reigns and Monday Night Raw. Now, Roman Reigns had some heartbreaking news to share when he came out on Monday Night Raw in Providence, Rhode Island. He came down to the ring to let everyone know that he is relinquishing the Universal Championship because he has been living with leukemia for 11 years, and unfortunately, it's back. And that absolutely sucked for him to have to say that. He made it known immediately that this is not a retirement speech, and he ended the segment by promising to fight leukemia, and he was going to be back home in the WWE. After that, Roman Reigns then took the Universal Championship and laid it out in the middle of the ring and started heading up towards the ramp. While at the top of the ramp, he was met by his fellow Shield brothers, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. The trio stood together one last time and posed as the Shield. After that, the three embraced, and you could noticeably see Seth Rollins was tearing up, and Dean Ambrose was fighting back tears, and Roman Reigns was constantly wiping his eyes to show no emotion, and the WWE Universe felt that. Now, let me just say this, guys. Cancer sucks, and I hope we get to a point one day to where nobody has to deal with cancer, because it's just a cruel and insufferable disease that no one should have to deal with. And I want to wish Roman Reigns a speedy recovery as he deals with leukemia, and I wish him nothing but the best for his health. But we get to Monday Night Raw, guys, the other part of the topic that I wanted to talk about. And on Monday Night Raw, with Roman Reigns being out, this had to lead to some creative changes. And I thought they were positive creative changes. We had to deal with things like Bobby Lashley being a heel with Lio Rush. That is a welcome change for Bobby Lashley, and he continued doing that on Monday Night Raw. Then we also had Elias. Elias became a babyface after hitting Baron Corbin over the back with a guitar. Another welcome change for someone who I thought was really over with the crowd, and you could keep him as the same character and just have him insult heels the exact same way he used to insult the audience. We then got the babyface turn confirmed for Braun Strowman. Last week, Drew McIntyre Claymore kicked Braun Strowman in the face, and this week we saw it happen once again, but we knew from a house show even that Braun Strowman was turning babyface, so they had this already in the plans. Braun Strowman, the guy who was known as the monster among men, turned heel so he could have Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler watch his back. It just didn't make sense for his character. But now we have Braun Strowman back as a babyface, and he even stepped in the main event to help cost Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler the tag team titles, which leads to our final turn of the night. And it was an emotional moment when Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose became the Raw Tag Team Champions. Now, after they became Tag Team Champions in a shocking turn of events, Dean Ambrose turned heel on Seth Rollins. He began beating the crap out of him, lifting up the padding on the outside and giving him a dirty deeds. Dean Ambrose looked like an absolute lunatic, and I loved it. Now, I know there's a lot of people online saying that this was the wrong time to do it, and they shouldn't have did that. It's a sensitive moment with Roman Reigns and everything that happened earlier in the night. Why would they do this? And I'm going to read you a quote from Tommy Dreamer on Twitter. And he says, "So much negativity towards WWE for Dean Ambrose turning on Seth Rollins last night. At this point, if you are so offended, I say it's time to stop watching wrestling because you just don't get it." And I agree with that, because it's wrestling, guys. We had to move forward, and that's why they did the Roman Reigns segment in the beginning of the show to get that over with, and then they had to move on. So, and I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. I'm just saying that we all know that the show must continue, and nothing is different here. They wanted to move forward with what kind of matches and heel turns and everything else that had to be set up. And I completely get why WWE made this decision. And I, for one, am happy with all the turns that they did. And I think it's going to make for some exciting television in the upcoming weeks. All right, guys, now that that's out the way, let's talk about WWE Evolution. I really was excited for this when it was first announced because you had some positives to Evolution and you also had some negatives going on at the time. The positives are that WWE is finally promoting an all-women's pay-per-view, and it makes up for that crap that happened last year in Saudi Arabia. But at the same time, is WWE going to do the right thing with this show? And I feel really bad for this show overall, and here's why. They have been overshadowed by so many things, and they've had months to promote this. I think they had at least 3 to 4 months to get this card ready, and it feels kind of meh. And the show's been overshadowed by Crown Jewel news with all of the BS associated with Crown Jewel and that whole mess. You have Roman Reigns outshining this. You had other pay-per-views on the lead up, and it just feels like WWE Evolution isn't important. You had Smackdown 1000 happening. So much different stuff is going on, and it just is, it's just kind of there, you know? And with that being said, I really want this to be a good show, and maybe it'll surprise me. But right now, my expectations are set very low for this show, and let's just get into the preview and predictions for Evolution. Our first match on the card, we have a 6-woman tag match. We will have Bayley, Sasha Banks, and Natalya taking on the Riott Squad. Now, this match is something we've seen on Monday Night Raw numerous times, so not really too excited for it. Who's going to win this match? I don't know. I think you have a chance to tell a story with the Riott Squad winning, which could make things very interesting. But I'm going to go with Bayley, Sasha, and Natalya picking up the victory for this match, and the story continues over into Monday Night Raw. The three need a good victory, and I think it'll just be an awesome moment for them to pick up a win. And that's where I'm going to leave it for this one. All right, next up on my list here, I have the Mae Young Classic Finals. And this match and the next one I'm going to talk about are where things get a little fuzzy with this picture because we don't know who's going to be in the matches, so I can't really speak on it. So I'll do my best here to dance around this one at least. Now, we have the Mae Young Classic Finals, and we don't know because tonight we have the final 4 women who are in the match. And the final 2 will battle at the pay-per-view on Sunday. So right now we have Meiko Satomura, Toni Storm, Rhea Ripley, and Io Shirai. And going into this, Satomura versus Storm, oh, that's a tough match, but I got to take Toni Storm for the win, man. Toni Storm was slept on last year, and I felt like she is someone who has greatly improved, and I think WWE has a real star in their hands with her. But on the other hand, Rhea Ripley is also pretty good. She's improved greatly. I would have to say she gets the MIP for this Mae Young Classic. She has done a tremendous job getting into great shape, and Rhea Ripley looks like a WWE superstar. And Io Shirai has impressed everyone with her great moveset, her great working ability, and I'm going to have to give it to her. So Toni Storm and Io Shirai are the 2 females that I'm going to pick to go to the finals. And hopefully I'm right about that because if I watch Mae Young Classic, I'm going to probably be wrong if I got these wrong. And with that being said, the victor, I'm going to go with Toni Storm. Wild card pick here. I know everyone's favorite is Io Shirai to win, but I'm going with Toni Storm for the victory. And that's just my prediction for it because that's the best we can do with not knowing who's going to win tonight. So hopefully we get an excellent match for the Mae Young Classic, and I'm looking forward to it. Remember how I said in the last segment that we're going to have another one where I really don't know what's going to happen? Well, supposedly, according to everyone else, there's an NXT UK Women's Championship match on this. And I watched NXT UK for the past 2 weeks, and I didn't see anything about it. On this week's episode, Dakota Kai mentioned a championship, but I have yet to see anybody with one or a tournament or a battle royal held for it. So who's going to be in this? I shrug my shoulders. I don't know. And I'm sure there's spoilers out there, but I have done a great job avoiding them. So I will continue to do the same. I'm not sure who's going to be in this match, but I think it would be something great. And maybe it's whoever wins the Mae Young Classic gets the belt. I'm not sure what to expect from this, but hopefully we get a good match out of this once again. And we come away from this show surprised because God knows this show needs it. And now we get to a tag match that has been changed so many times that I'm confused as far as what's going on with it. It is Lita and Trish Stratus versus Alexa Bliss and Mickie James. Rumor has it that Alexa Bliss may be out due to a concussion or she's having some type of issue. So Alexa Bliss may be out and Alicia Fox is going to step in her place. As we saw on Raw, there was a little segment with Alicia Fox and Mickie James. I don't know. I don't know what to do here. I mean, I felt like the better match would have been Lita and Trish versus Sasha Banks and Bayley. Like, you could have done way more with that match, in my opinion. Or you could have had Beth Phoenix and Natalya versus Lita and Trish. You could have did so many different things, and I just feel like this isn't the right match. In this one, I'm predicting Lita and Trish to go over because Lita and Trish are the legends, and I feel like they need a victory in this one. And without Alexa Bliss being in there, I don't see how you can do that. NXT, NXT, NXT. We get to our next match, guys. It is for the NXT Women's Championship. We are going to have Kairi Sane, the current champion, defend against Shayna Baszler. This has been a great feud between the two. These guys were in the first Mae Young Classic Finals, so it's kind of nice to see a repeat of that with the Mae Young Classic Finals being on this year as well. And these guys have had a heck of a feud while in NXT, and the wins have gone back and forth, and this is the time where we're going to see a good match. So we look at this, and have their matches been blow away? No, but they've been really good. And that's what I expect from this match, and I think this could be the sleeper match of the night. I really predict that NXT potentially steals the show with this one, and we have Kairi Sane go over Shayna Baszler. Why? Because I predict that Shayna Baszler is getting called up to the main roster immediately after this. Shayna Baszler is old enough, and she has been trained long enough that I think she's ready for the main roster. She's done a tremendous job down in NXT, and she doesn't need it anymore. And I would like to see her on the main roster to see what she can do with Ronda Rousey and some of the other female superstars on the main roster. Like, Shayna Baszler has all the potential in the world, but they have to keep her as the badass character that she's been portraying down in NXT. And that's just my opinion. But once again, I think this is the sleeper match of the night, and I think it could be the best match on this card. I have the Raw Women's Championship match up next. We have Ronda Rousey defending her title against Nikki Bella. And I don't know about you guys, but everyone was raving about that Ronda Rousey promo. It was okay. I mean, nothing special. And I think I feel that way because AJ Lee did it first, so meh. And she had some horrible lines in there that Solid Monster had brought up on his podcast about eviscerating somebody and doing all this other stuff that made no sense. Now, Nikki Bella is somebody that, if you like the women's wrestling of today, you know that she is from a previous kind of era. Have they translated very well into this one? I think the Bella Twins have done their best. But are they up to par? That's up to each person's opinion. But the main thing that people think of when I see Nikki and Brie Bella now, they date two of the top stars in WWE, or they have relationships with them. I know Brie's married to Daniel, and I don't know what John Cena and Nikki Bella are this week. But what is going to happen in this match? I predict that Ronda Rousey picks up the victory in this one. I don't see Nikki Bella getting the win, even though she'll have her sister by her side. I think they make Ronda Rousey look dominant in this performance, and they continue to move on from here. And Ronda deserves to still be the women's champion. She's done a good job. And like I said, if she wrote that promo herself, like some of the dirt sheets say, thumbs up to Ronda. It was well written except for a couple parts. And Ronda's been doing her thing out there. She just needs to go out there, speak freely, and talk like you normally would in any type of fight. That's it. And once again, Ronda Rousey is my prediction for the win on this one. So we have a women's battle royal, and the winner will get a future women's championship shot at a later date. Now, we saw some of the names from the past in this. You got Alundra Blaze, you got Ivory, and so many others. Tori Wilson, I believe, is going to be in this. And you have some people from the current roster, everyone who hasn't been mentioned, Peyton Royce, Nia Jax, Billie Kay, Asuka, Naomi, Carmella, anyone who hasn't been mentioned, they're probably in this battle royal. Now, here's the issue. A lot of women who are in this battle royal could have been put in more meaningful matches and that you could have actually did something with them. So the question is, who goes over? Well, I've limited my choices down to 3 right now. I've got Nia Jax, Ember Moon, or Asuka winning this. And I think Asuka's going to be my choice for the win. And here's why. With Asuka, you could tell an amazing story that Asuka is going to have to get through Charlotte to get to Becky Lynch. And Asuka's going to try and claim the women's championship that missed her at WrestleMania. It could be a great story and something to tell. Now, Nia Jax has also been someone who was slept on, and same with Ember Moon. I think she would just be a nice surprise pick, but my pick for this is Asuka. I think you have the best chance of telling a good story with her, and you could actually do something with it. And we finally have reached the main event, and this is the match that I feel should main event the show. It's had the best build-up out of all of the main roster matches, and it should be the most prestigious. We will have, for the SmackDown Live Women's Championship, Becky Lynch versus Charlotte in a last woman standing match. And this match has infinite possibilities. I still think that you got to have something where they do a double turn. I'm going to continue preaching that until it happens because I think it's time for WWE to make that move. Becky Lynch is getting cheered, and because of this, Charlotte is getting booed. Hashtag Casey Briggs, boo the woo, if you're part of the Everything Pro Wrestling group. In my opinion, I have no rhyme or reason for my prediction on this one. I'm going with Becky Lynch for the win. And I just feel that whatever you're trying to set up for Charlotte, you could do it with the Royal Rumble. She's probably going to win the Royal Rumble, in my opinion, at this point. That's where I'm thinking down the road towards, that she's going to win the Royal Rumble and go challenge Ronda Rousey on Raw. Becky Lynch should pick up the win here and lead her into a feud with Asuka, according to my previous prediction. And I think that's what's best for business on this one. Now, do me a favor, guys, and make sure you stick around because we're going to have some questions from the Everything Pro Wrestling Facebook group after this. All right, guys, every time I do a podcast from now on, I would like for you guys to submit questions for me, and I'll answer them at the end of the podcast. This is my first week trying this out, so let's get right into some of them, and I'm going to check the Everything Pro Wrestling Facebook group. Link will be in the description box of this podcast, and let's see what's happening here. First thing I have from Eric Patterson. Do you think they should cancel Crown Jewel or move Crown Jewel? With all of the build going into Crown Jewel, I feel that Crown Jewel should be moved to another location, whether that's in the UK or if you move it to anywhere else in the States. I mean, it's Shawn Michaels' return. It needs to be in front of people who are going to care about the event. You've got some decent matches on there. Let's just try and make the best of it because this Saudi Arabia nonsense is just going to get WWE in a whole lot of trouble. And the stock market's down today, so they need to figure out something real soon. I thought they were going to announce something today, but nothing has happened yet. Let's see. Eric Patterson has another question. EPAT, thank you, my man. Would you put Asuka in a title match over Nikki or Charlotte? Yes, I am a big fan of Asuka. At this point right now, we're not in WrestleMania season yet. So yes, I would put Asuka over Nikki. Now, Charlotte, on the other hand, that's very difficult. I would like to see Charlotte in a heel role right now. So that's the only reason why I put Asuka over her at this point. But Asuka and Charlotte can both deliver good matches. Nikki Bella's a little for me, but they do her best. But Asuka is personally my favorite of those three right now. And Robert Anderson with the final question this week. If you had to rebook 1 year in WWE, what would it be? 2003 or 2014? Should be for obvious reasons why I chose those years. That's tough. What was going on in 2003? You had Brock Lesnar going through his babyface run. You're going from WrestleMania 19 towards 20. And then you have 2014, and I'm sure he's talking about the whole pushing Roman Reigns mess and everything else going on with Daniel Bryan. Very difficult here. All right. I'm going to pick 2014, and here's why. I always felt that Brock Lesnar's passion, if I would have known everything that I've heard from time to time from 2003, Brock Lesnar's passion was never there. And was there a way to really build Brock Lesnar up to have that passion at that time? No, there's no way. It would have been inevitable. You couldn't have stopped him or Goldberg from leaving eventually, and Goldberg was tired of the other direction with Triple H and everything else. So nothing could have been saved. 2014 is picked for this reason. You could have had so many things done differently. I wouldn't have broke up the Shield as quickly as they did. You could have had a different outcome with Batista being in that Royal Rumble. You could have had Daniel Bryan win the Royal Rumble and still tell that same fantastic story if you would have done it differently, and maybe he wouldn't have got injured. Bray Wyatt as a character should have been treated so much better when you look back at that WrestleMania 30 time period. The Undertaker losing his streak. So much stuff happened in that year that you could rebook it. Like, I personally would have never booked Undertaker to lose the streak. It's kind of one of those things in wrestling that should have never been touched. But once again, you got to surprise people sometimes too. So just crazy that you could go back and forth on either one of these, but 2014 is my personal pick. I think you could have fixed a lot of the problems that you're running into today because you would have pushed the proper people at the right time. And I think a lot of those guys had huge star potential in 2014 that they just let down. 2003, you kind of already saw the writing on the wall with who would be the stars. But I thank Eric Patterson and Robert Anderson for asking those questions. So make sure you guys submit questions to me once again next week. And it'll be great to have him in the podcast for EPW Q&A. To quote Conrad Thompson, let's put a bow on this episode. For the Everything Pro Wrestling podcast this week, guys, it has been a phenomenal show on the podcast. I really hope that this WWE Evolution pay-per-view is really something to be remembered, because I think if this show doesn't deliver, we're never going to see another all-female show for quite some time. So let's make sure that this show delivers, WWE, and hopefully the people are interested and there's a lot of hype and buzz around it. Also, guys, do me a favor and make sure you check out the YouTube channel. I've been live streaming some WWE 2K19, some Fire Pro Wrestling. If you guys want to see me stream other things, let me know. Get in there and make sure you guys are talking to me about some pro wrestling or anything else that you guys want to talk about. So all of the descriptions and links for everything will be in the description box for the podcast. Make sure you give me a subscribe. We're almost at 200 subscribers. So if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, do me a favor and do that. But I appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the Everything Pro Wrestling podcast. Why? Because it's a show by the fans, for the fans. And I do it for you guys. So thank you for listening to this episode. And we're out. Peace.